Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over the Dawn of X era of X-Men comics, and we actually pick up with X-Men number 12, where we actually pick up with the prelude to the X of Swords event. Yes, you heard that right, the prelude to X of Swords. We finally made it. It is truly amazing. Hickman, you did something good here. But with this prelude, it actually picks up where the middle section of X-Men number 11 left off at. Remember, the High Summoner was playing a game with Rockslide, a character who is going to be very important down the road for this event we are covering. But it was a game for the High Summoner to learn more about the weaknesses of Rockslide and how to use it against him down the road. Something that is actually going to be a problem for the X-Men in this event, except that is the moment you have Apocalypse appear, because you have to remember that Apocalypse is the grandfather of the High Summoner. Apocalypse had 4 children who were sent to the other side to fight a war, which we are going to learn more about that war here in this video. They were the original 4 horsemen, but war, one of the children of Apocalypse, gave birth to the High Summoner. But this is the moment you have the High Summoner explain what happened to him, his mother, and the rest of the family of Apocalypse, but also giving us a better idea of what is about to come down the road and retelling things we already knew, but with more information to get us ready for this event. There is something else I do want to mention, and that is what happened in Excalibur number 11 and number 12. Because remember, in that storyline, Apocalypse and the Excalibur team were able to make a gate that can lead straight into the Otherworld. And Otherworld is going to be very important for this event as well, because it is another dimension that is going to be the middle point for everything between Earth dimension and another one. So getting into the important things we need to know, you do have Apocalypse as his grandson. What happened to his children and his wife? That is the moment you have the High Summoner give us the complete history we need, starting off with the very beginning, which is some information we had learned back in House of X and Power of X. Let me explain. So back then we had learned that Krakoa was a living island that was actually attached to another island called Arrako. When they are connected, they are called Orkara. But the reason why the 2 islands were split, it is because a powerful being was holding something called the Twilight Sword that led to the 2 islands being split. But this powerful being came out of the hole between the 2 islands, something we had already known about. But when the powerful being appeared, it brought a bunch of powerful creatures with it. Now Apocalypse and his family fought against that force, but to make sure that evil never comes back, Apocalypse has sent his entire family in the portal with Arrako, the other island that was attached to Krakoa, to hopefully save the day. But he stayed behind to help mutants get ready if ever that evil force ever comes back. Now, when Apocalypse family went through the portal, they had arrived in a world called Armeth that was completely wrecked because someone who was a powerful person was holding something called the White Sword, had led to this world going completely crazy and people dying. Something else to mention is that the person is a mutant who came here before Apocalypse family had, and that person had already done some messed up things in this world. But the family of Apocalypse instead thought it would be a good idea to build something here in this new world with themselves, but also with Arrako, the living island they came with. So they built 10 towers as a way to be their barriers in the world. Years passed and more mutants were born thanks to Apocalypse children giving birth to these mutants, and other mutants that had came with Apocalypse children also giving birth as well. Now, the High Summoner had this person who he grew up with who was a prophet, saying that he sees the end of what they had built in this new world. Apocalypse's wife, Genesis, laughed and thought what he said was false, and she was going to be able to handle the man who was holding the White Sword. So she made an army and rode out there to fight against the man with the White Sword. And so you had Genesis ride out there to fight against the forces of the man with the white sword. That war went on for a while. At first, they were getting updates on what was happening out there with Genesis and her army that she had built. Except as years went on, they began to get less updates on what was happening, up to the point they were no longer getting updates on what was happening out there. The man with the white sword had the ability to resurrect any of his dead soldiers to help him fight against the forces of Genesis. So of course, it explains why she was having a hard time winning this war, because as soon as she killed a bunch of them, more of them just popped up left and right, coming back to life. So more time has passed by, and you had another mutant appear in that world called Iska, and she is going to be very important for this event. Something else to mention is that there were other gods of mutants, or not gods, sorry, other groups of mutants who had joined Apocalypse family when they came here, Iska being one of them, except she was sent by a god known as Annihilation. Of course, this was the god that was really behind the reason why the evil creature that held the Twilight Sword had appeared on Akora years ago. Also, the person known as the man with the white sword does work for that god as well. But to end the war in this world, Iska was sent to invite Genesis to a duel to the death between her and the god Annihilation. It was a way to end the war and hopefully move forward in some kind of direction, except we are told that Genesis had lost and that she is dead. And so with the death of Genesis, it led to Annihilation actually attacking the area the family of Apocalypse had taken up in Armeth. This war was getting so bad for the mutants in this world that they had to send the High Summoner and only a piece of Arrako to find his grandfather to get help. Because remember, Apocalypse has stayed behind to get the mutant race ready for this war and protect the Earth, and that time has come now. And so getting back to Apocalypse and the High Summoner in the present day, you have Apocalypse show the High Summoner the gate he had built in Excalibur number 11 and number 12 that leads into Otherworld, because Otherworld is the connecting point between Armeth and Earth. And with this gate, they can go to Otherworld and then go to Armeth and hopefully save Armeth and also save the remaining mutants over there. The High Summoner is going to go back there with Eunice and Banshee to see how things are going. Then Apocalypse will go with an army of the X-Men to help save the area, the mutants who went there, his family, and finally the rest of Arrako. But in Otherworld, we see something else is going on. That something is actually the children of Apocalypse are in Otherworld, and they have taken out one of the kingdoms in Otherworld. They are trying to get to Earth, Arrako, to begin to wreak havoc. Like they are actually evil now, and that is something huge, because now the big question is, why have they changed? Except that is the moment you have this kingdom send someone to warn one particular person about this army crossing across Otherworld wreaking havoc. Except that person is shot by an arrow by the children of Apocalypse, because they are also trying to send a message and lead us into X of Swords. And guys, we are finally in the main storyline in the next video. So with that being said, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. Guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.